Hi everyone. I'm going to show you about how to use Google Meet. This is Matthias again. That's me. Hello. Yeah. So now that we're moving to trying to use Google Meet for classroom meetings, I'm going to try to go through how to use it and how do you see the students and doing things like muting students and presenting and things like that. Bear with me, it's going to be a little tricky because I'm going to try to do like two users at once, so you can sort of see the whole meeting kind of in progress. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so we're going to start. This is your Google Classroom page. I have sort of like a practice or a demonstration classroom set up here. So you're probably already pretty familiar with this. I showed on another video, but I'm going to show again. I think the easiest way to use Google Meet is actually through Google Calendar, to help you manage your meetings and for people to find easily the links. So I'm going to show you that, and then I'm also show you how to post the link in your stream if you want to. So first of all, we're going to go to the Classroom tab. So we're going to click on Classroom. And as you may know already, there's a Google Calendar link here under classwork. That's for the shared classroom calendar. So we're going to click on Google Calendar, and it's going to load Google Calendar, and it's going to show you your classroom calendar. It might ask you if you want to add it. If it's the first time, you say yes, you want to add it. And the important thing is here on the side here, you should see basically your classroom name. And it may have a color. You can change the color if you want. I'd like to make it, red to make it very obvious. And you also see your own calendar. And it's easiest to do this if you just uncheck that box so that you only see the classroom calendar. Because otherwise it can get confusing and you can create meetings in the wrong calendar. I'm going to leave this enabled just to show you what happens, but ideally you leave this disabled. So only one calendar at a time. So here's your demo classroom. I have already a meeting in place. Let's say I want to create a new morning meeting. So we're going to use Meet for all the morning meetings. So I'm going to go, let's see, at 8:30 in the morning, for example, starting tomorrow. I'm going to say morning meeting. Maybe I'll put my classroom name on it just to make it clear. And then here, what I was saying, you have multiple calendars. So you really want to make sure that the choice here that you're adding the meeting to your classroom calendar and not to your own sort of personal Google Calendar. So you really want to be sure, let me highlight this, that you're choosing your classroom calendar here when you create a meeting. If you've only selected a single calendar at a time, then this will be the default choice, which makes things a little easier. So we're going to do that. And then the important thing here now is that we're going to use Meet is you click on Add Location or Conferencing. And you say add conferencing, and it will give you a Hangouts Meet or Google Meet link. And if we want to make this, you can save it. This will only make you a meeting for one day. So let's say we save it. And then we actually realize, oh, but we want this meeting to happen every day. So then I'm going to click on this meeting, and I'm going to click the pencil icon for edit event. And I'm going to go to this does not repeat list, and I'm going to say repeats every weekday, Monday to Friday, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, so now you can see a couple of things. First, that the calendar has the morning meeting set in place, and in fact, if you go to the next week, it'll still be there, which is nice. And then if I click on a meeting, I'm going to see this Join Hangouts Meet link. And I'm going to see this. And so if we click here, which I will do in a minute, we will join the meeting, and then everyone can join the meeting that way. That is the easiest way to join the meeting. You can also click on this icon to copy it to clipboard. And then you can go to your classroom, go to the stream, and you could say, we'll be using this link for our morning meeting, and you can Control V and paste the link and post it if you want. Again, I think usually it's better if you can get your classwork, like all your students, to understand to use Google Calendar. I think it'll make your life easier, because also any teacher in your classroom can add their own meetings. So You can have your gym hour and your technology hour and science, everything in Google Calendar. And so students, you start building a schedule for the students, and they can always just go to the calendar and click on the link to do the meeting. If you make a recurring meeting, the link, the meeting ID, which is these letters, will always be the same. So you can see it's always the same. So it's nice to have recurring meetings because you can you have the same meeting ID. So if people have bookmarked the link or whatever, they can just go to it. But again, I will say it's best to just use Calendar and not try to put all the links into your stream, because then it can get confusing if a link changes and things like that. Okay, so let me close this. All right, let me turn this off. Okay, so we have the calendar. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to show from the perspective of a student. So let's close that window for a minute, and we'll go to another window. Hopefully, yeah. Okay, so this one, I am just understand. I'm signed in with a different account. So I know it looks the same because it's the same classroom. And you can see that the stream was updated. Here's a link that the teacher, that's me on the other account, put in. But what you want to make sure your students understand is that, again, they should go to the classwork tab and click on Google Calendar to open their calendar. So open Google Calendar. So hopefully this is still recording. Okay, yes. Okay, so when the students, so basically, just to recap again, you should make sure that all your students go to the classwork tab and click on Google Calendar. And then that will bring them to the Google Calendar tab, and they will get this add calendar notification, and they say add. And now, similarly to how you were seeing the events in your calendar, the students are going to also see their demo classroom on their own calendar. In this case, it'll be actually the name of your classroom, right? So that's an important thing that they will see. And they see the events that you created. And so now by clicking on an event, they can easily, thank you, they can easily click Join Hangouts Meet and join the meeting. So Google Calendar, they'll see the meeting and they'll click on the link, which is the same link that you clicked, but this is on their computer. And getting ready. Okay. Now, a couple of options. I'm going to turn off my camera because there's too many cameras being used. Students and you can choose to turn off the camera and also turn off their microphone. And I do recommend that, students are muted while they're not talking. So that's something that I'll keep saying because it's worth saying. Google Meet is much more sensitive to noise than Zoom is. So you really want everyone to be muted unless they're actively talking. So let's stay unmuted for now. And I'm gonna hit join now. And so now we're basically both in the meeting. What you're seeing now is sort of like the teacher. Let's make this small and go back to the teacher view. I know it's a little confusing, bear with me. So as a teacher, the student, remember I turned the video off, so I don't see them. The D is their name, they're the demo student. If I go up here, what I had shown you before, the participant list, or the people list, here you will see everyone who's joined. So it's nice, you can keep this open if you want to, and you'll see as students join. And probably the most important thing you can do here is if you click on the name of a student, you'll get a little drop down and you can mute people. So you can hit mute. And then once you mute them, the only way for them to talk is for them to unmute. So now they're muted and you can see this red icon here. So you should normally basically see that everyone essentially is muted. And if someone is not muted and there's background noise, you can go and mute them. And I believe that the way the DOE has set up Google Meet, only teachers can mute. The students can't mute each other or the teacher, which is good. So you should be the only one. You and other teachers should be the only ones who are muting people. But you'll see all the participants here, and you can kind of at a glance see who's muted and who's not muted. If they're not muted, you will see these little green bars. As the students speak, you'll see whoever's speaking here. There's a few options that are also worth mentioning. You can pin students. So if someone is talking or if you're talking, you can pin yourself. You see how there's a little pin there now, and now I can see myself. That means that basically that person will, everyone will see that person instead of seeing whoever ends up talking or making noise. So if you want a student to present, you can say, okay, in this case, demo student, go ahead and unmute, and I'm going to pin you. And so now they're pinned. And if they go and then they unmute themselves, they can speak and everyone will see them. So pinning can be useful to make sure that everyone's like looking at the same thing. So let's unpin them. Okay. There's a few other options that are worth mentioning. If I click back on the screen, it closes my participants. Again, you can click on the little icon up there to see the participants. If you go here to more options, there's some interesting stuff. There's a layout. I think normally you don't need to change this, but there are different choices for what you can. You can see sort of tiled layout with multiple people or a sidebar of people. Usually leaving it in auto is fine. The more interesting one probably that you'll want to know is present. So if you want to present, for example, Google Classroom or a website or something like that, you can click present now down here. You can see it. So if I click present now, you can present either your entire screen or a window. I really recommend presenting only a window at a time, because you don't necessarily want to present everything that's on your desktop, which might be your personal email and things like that. So I like to say a window, and then depending on the computer, you'll get a prompt saying what do you want to share. In this case, I only have this one window open, so I'm going to share this window, which is the same window that I'm talking, but then I can switch sort of like to a different tab, and I'll be presenting a different tab. So now I'm in the classwork tab, for example, and if I actually move this away, well, let's see what the student sees first. So I'm presenting this, and I'm gonna go to the meeting. Okay, so now this is what my student is seeing, and you can see that they see what I'm presenting, which is this window, right? And so if I go here and I, for example, go into an assignment, and view assignment, the students are basically seeing that window, right? The way to do it is to have a browser window where you're having your meeting, and then a different browser window where you're have what you want to present. And then when you go to your Meet and say present now, you say present a window, not your entire screen. And then you choose a window that has what you want to present, in this case, my assignment window, and click share. And now I'm basically in this window, and whatever I do here, the other people will see. And sort of you can see here, it says you're presenting to everyone. So you're not going to see your presentation unless I guess you can click here. You can click on your presentation, see a presentation appears as a participant. I know this is a little tricky. So that's you, that's your presentation, that's a student. If we look to see the student view, what they're looking at is going to be the same. So they see, you speaking, and then they see what you're presenting in your classroom, right? So if I go back to the classroom here, I'm gonna make this window a little smaller. You can sort of see how whatever you're doing, they see. So this can be useful. You don't have to present your screen if you don't want to, but it's useful to do it sometimes. And then when you want to stop presenting, you can find first the window that you're presenting from, which in my case is this one. And you can say, you're presenting, you can say stop, you can click your presentation, say stop presenting. Before I do that, when I do that, the video is gonna stop. So anyway, hopefully this is, I know it's kind of like a quick overview. I know it can be a little confusing, but this is sort of a general overview of how to use Google Meet. Again, I will say probably the most important thing is using Google Calendar so that you have the meetings there. And you can click on the meetings, and you can tell your students, go to your calendar, click on the meeting to join. Your students should go to the calendar through their classwork tab, clicking on Google Calendar, so they can see the classroom calendar. And then when you're in a meeting, clicking up here to see the participant list, and you can mute people who are making noise, basically. And then everyone should just unmute to speak and then mute back again. Okay, I hope this was useful.